So I've been talking about creating this AI layer around Polkadot, right? Around specifically around like Polkadot Hub, Solidity, PVM, and Jam services. And if developers wanted to interact with Polkadot or end users, non-developers want to interact with Polkadot, they would go through this AI layer. It would just make things easier. And we've been discussing Blur and how Blur has two sets of audiences. One is are developers who want to use the IDE to create solutions, build dApps, and the other one can be AI agents. And so far, Christian mentioned in the Telegram channel that like these are two like very like the way you'd build for one audience versus another is very, very different, which he's 100% correct. So today I want to give an update on all of this, right? So let me expand out here and let's start with this little diagram here. So the idea here would be that we have all these AI agents that we can spawn up, each one with specialized tasks, and they can work off of the Polkadot AI API. And then there would be a central AI agent coordinator uh, that can decide which to send the task. Like the task originates here either from the AI agent coordinator or from a user, and the coordinator would say, okay, this task can be done through these AI agents, or and it cannot be done through these two. So it would have some knowledge of the specialization of each of these agents. So let's dig a little bit more in depth. I did some work here. So all of this led up to this. So uh, milestone one would be simple interactions, stuff that already exists on Polkadot. So for example, we could say the end user could say, and the audience here are like non-technical end users, our friends, people who aren't in the Polkadot ecosystem who want to do simple operations on Polkadot, such as like, hey, Polkadot, I want to swap 100 DOT for USDT. So that's where the coordinator AI agent would come in and say, okay, what are the services that offer swap functionality currently on Polkadot? And it would know this based off of the AI agents that are already in existence. So each parachain, like hydration parachain, would have its own AI agent, a hydration specific AI agent. Moonbeam would have its own Moonbeam specific AI agent. Polkadot Hub would have its own Polkadot Hub specific AI agent, which the coordinator can interact with the agents, and the agents would say, hey, yeah, we can do swap. We can definitely do swap. And so the instruction would go out, and the AI agent would figure out how to do the swap and report back to the coordinator, and all the other services would do the same. And then the coordinator would follow up with a priority of uh, operations that it would do, such as like, okay, out of all the results that got back, which one is the cheapest? Which one makes the most sense for me to report back to the end user and say, okay, I found the cheapest route. I found the recommended route. This is what I recommend. Here's the transaction detail. Because remember, they're not a developer, right? But they should still definitely like that. You definitely want to verify, preview the transaction. This is how it's going to work. It's going to go to Polkadot Hub and it's going to do X, Y, and Z. Here's the extrinsics and show a view, a diagram view, a visual view of what would happen, and then give them like the ability to reject or approve. If they approve, their wallet will pop up and they will be able to approve the transaction and they get the swap. They get the USDT, 100 dot worth of USDT in their wallet. So simple operations like that already exist in the ecosystem. MVP for that, I would say we target Polkadot Hub, right? Because that's Parity's going that route for Solidity PVM smart contracts, and it just we could have more control. We could have our own AI agent where it works off of the Polkadot Hub functionality and get that working, and then slowly, start including AI agents for make it available for others to integrate as well, right? So then we have a nice offering here of like different features. So how would this Polkadot Hub specific or Parachain specific AI agent work, right? There's two ways we could do this. One is we could use Eliza OS to spawn Polkadot specific AI agents. There's already a grant that I saw where someone's working on a plugin for Polkadot with Eliza OS so that it can do Polkadot specific things, we would have to like extend that a bit more to add more functionality. Um, that's one route. I'm not the biggest fan of that route, but if it gets us like if it can solve like if we can build a prototype that works, and I'm not 100% convinced that we can, because there needs to be more functionality than just what's in Eliza OS, then that's great. Otherwise, I'm a bigger fan of ramping up a treasury proposal and creating our own Polkadot AI agent framework built with Rust. This should definitely be built with Rust. It shouldn't be built with TypeScript, and it's an excellent systems programming language. And we start building very Polkadot specific. So we do a lot of like the best stuff that's offered with Eliza OS. Like I think they have like they integrate with a number of AI APIs, and that at the end of the day, that's what Eliza OS like. It's a lot of just like it's wrapper around APIs. So it's nothing that we can't do in Polkadot world, right? So we get a few engineers behind that, and we build that. We build an MVP for that, something that's small that we can get to make it work for this, right? Simple operations. So that's a project. Someone could take that on. Uh, then we get this to work. So we need this AI agent here, coordinator, and we need the simple operations to work, right? We need a UI, Polkadot UI, which once we prove that this works, we can get this to work with simple interactions. Then I would move it to either mobile first, right? Like you think of like the audience here, they're not developers. Okay. So the audience would be like, degens, like people who want to interact with Polkadot and, want to play on Polkadot. So it should definitely be a mobile app. Like you look at Uniswap, Uniswap has its own native iOS mobile app and it's beautiful. There's no reason we can't have that with this type of product that we're building. The other way that we could integrate with this is I think it's 11 Labs that does the voice, where the AI can, instead of writing text, it actually speaks to you. So we could create like kind of like an Alexa for Polkadot, where users could actually integrate. They could speak with voice, and the wallet could be integrated, and then say like, "Hey, Polkadot, I need to do the swap," and then Polkadot will reply and say, "Okay, yeah, this is the route. Do you approve?" Right? So we could do it that way. That might have its own hurdles, but we should definitely. I mean, eventually we want to do that. Like, you should be able to speak to Alexa at home and be able to do simple interactions with Polkadot. So that's the idea here. That's an idea. That's milestone one, right? Using what already kind of exists, except for this part here. I think for this we have to either build our own, which I think that's a good project. Uh, Start with something small, or use Eliza OS. So, or I think Open Guild has they're building an AI agent framework. So we could, that could be a possible route too, as long as we can work uh, that this gets delivered, right? So that we can build this quickly. So milestone two is composability. Before I cover milestone two, I'm actually going to skip over to the last milestone. So the goal here, where we're getting to, and maybe we want to start here, right? Is autonomous development, full autonomous development. This is what I've been speaking about. Okay. This is where I'd really like to go. Like this is like where I think we should go. And this should be the goal. And what do I mean by autonomous development? It means the AI agents, they are empowered uh, to get things done, and they can get things done by developing their own stuff on Polkadot, right? So that's kind of crazy, but like I was speaking about OKRs, right? This all starts coming together. Like uh, we still need to build the DAO, right? And it's with Solidity smart contracts, and the DAO that I was discussing in the Solidity channel it has to do with also is going to work with OKRs, right? So imagine you have OKRs and you hand the AI an OKR and say, "Hey, Polkadot, here's a new OKR. Deliver on this. Like, I'm going to deposit 5 million DOT in your account. Execute." Right? Boom. Right? I mean, this is like big goal here. Like, we could start with something smaller to test it out, but like at the end of the day, like it's going to be something like this, right? Deliver on this OKR. So, I mean, that's what AI agents like, they can be built for this, right? So based on that, they now have, economic power, right? And they can say, well, to deliver on this OKR, I'm going to need to build X, Y, and Z, and it begins, right? So it'll start using the same like protocol that I discussed earlier, which is like, okay, I need to build perhaps like a DAO, right? Or I need to build a DEX, right? Okay, which services on Polkadot offer smart contract support where I can build a DEX, right? Or maybe, and in this case, like this one doesn't offer smart contract logic, although itself it's a DEX, but maybe we want to build a custom DEX, right? So it'll say, okay, these two are available where we could have smart contract functionality, and it would start. Creating its own decks, its own custom decks, and it will then execute. It'll do it itself. And what we see here is we can have a view into what it's doing, and we should have a view into what it's doing. And that's why I call this one lens, right? It's no longer blur, it's lens, where we have only a read-only view here, right? Because we're kind of like betting on this protocol, right? It's got dot behind it, and uh it's empowered to do something according to the OKR. Can it deliver? Yes or no? We don't know. Maybe it'll deliver, maybe it won't deliver, right? And uh, we can see, we can look through this UI here, and we can see what it's building, and we can interact with the AI and say, hey, like, what are you doing? And then it'll explain, this is what I'm doing. This is the strategy. So we can interact with the AI. Like, this is like why I'm building this DAO and this token and this DEX and this NFT and deploying and executing this, right? We can interact all we want with it, but at the end of the day, it's a read-only view. Okay. Uh, I would like for it, all of this to be pumping the dot token. Now, this is definitely open to discussion because I think there's many of you who are more knowledgeable here that could give your input, because like at the end of the day, I think this is Polkadot AI. Like what it accomplishes here in terms of OKRs and such, this should pump the dot token. Uh, but maybe it should have its own token. I don't think so. Like I'd rather its success not be measured in its own token, whether it goes up or down, right? Whether people buy or don't buy according to its performance. I'd rather its success be measured on the key results. Like, is it attaining the key results, right? Because it is operating on key results. Is it on par with the KPIs, right? We integrate some on-chain KPIs. Is it hitting those KPIs, right? And based on that, we get the sentiment from the community. And it's like, hey, this AI is actually delivering, right? So dot price goes up. But I'm open to feedback on that as well as on everything here. So how do we get the smart contract, right? Like say it's like build a custom uh, DAO or build a custom DEX, right? How do we know that this AI agent here is gonna deliver on that? Like it's gonna give you something that works, right? Like how many of us have interacted with OpenAI and it's given us faulty like substrate code or faulty code, right? So that's where there's going to be the success here, in my opinion, of it giving us like working code that actually works. Uh, it's based on an expectation. So we may need to create a format here, like a language format, like a templating language, or some type of language where we can where the AI can formalize its expectations and say, "This is what I need." Like at the end of the day, I need this result. And then this AI agent here will build, let's say, a Solidity smart contract or a set of Solidity smart contracts, each one with its own set of unit tests and associated end-to-end tests. And then it'll play a game of ping pong. So it'll actually run the unit tests against a mock of the parachain. Like we do this manually already. Uh, First, it'll run the unit test on its own, like, uh, yeah, it'll run its unit test off of a mock. And if it works, then it can, move forward, and it'll move forward towards testing it on an actual test net. Because remember, this is full autonomous, and it'll make sure it works on a test net, and then finally it'll go in production. Now, if it fails, then it needs to rewrite or create a new prompt and retry. And there should be like a number of like maybe you can only do 3 retries or I don't know 10 retries because this does cost compute, right? So and this is where we will have to tweak like the model and make it better and better and better, right? The AI model here, and so that we have this. We should have this metric. We should have this the data for this so that we can measure that it's like over time as we're tweaking the model, there's less and less retries, right? So this game of ping pong, ideally, it'll happen only once. So it'll get really good at writing smart contracts, writing logic, right? So that's that's the full autonomous thing, right? Full autonomous development where we want to head. To get there, I don't think we'll get there in one big step. I think there will be several steps. So let's go back to the step before, which is this correct? Milestone 4? Yeah, this should be like milestone 5. So the step before full autonomous is partial autonomous. Partial autonomous, until we get these AI models, like specifically, I would like to use DAppForge, until we get it at a good level where this ping pong game doesn't really, it happens maybe once or twice and or rarely happens, ideally, right? Uh, it's going to take time to get to that level, in my opinion. So in the in between, partial autonomous means that there will be human intervention. So here comes the Blur IDE, where it'll say, okay, Polkadot will say like, this is what I plan on doing. Here's the code, and please preview it, please review it, right? And approve or do a manual override. There would be like a manual override where the developer can come in and tweak it so that it's effective. There could be some back and forth here, and then a final approval from a developer for it to continue. So that's until this model here is strong enough to go on its own. Okay. So what else? So up here, right? Interactions. So this one we can do. This is for non-developers, right? Simple operations on Polkadot, and I think it's really cool. And then milestone two here is composability, and this one the audience are it's developers. So the idea here would be that there's some more complex interactions. So here's an example of like a complex interaction. Hey Polkadot, Alice is willing to give me their Polkadot Hub NFT if I give them 100 dot. Can you create an agreement for this? Right? So only if Alice gets 100 dot will Alice give the ownership of their NFT to uh, Bob, let's say, right? So that's where the coordinator will say, okay, yeah, I can do this, but I'm going to need to have I'm going to need to write a smart contract for this. So which services in the Polkadot ecosystem support this? Okay, this one does not, this one does, and this one does. Okay, let's try them out. Let's see which one uh, gives me the best operation, right? So then we go here, and maybe MVP, we only work with Polkadot Hub, um, and it will write Solidity smart contract that will do this operation, and it will do that ping pong that I discussed, and then finally come back here and output it in the Blur IDE. And it'll say, here's the code with passing tests, and would you like to execute this? Right? So similar approach. The difference here is that it wouldn't create any new operations. You couldn't ask it to say like create a DAO and deploy it, right? It would actually, the only thing that it's doing here, it's taking existing operations such as like transfer of assets, transfer of NFT ownership, and it's weaving it together in one smart contract so that you can compose things together in a trusted manner. So slightly different. I hope you understand what the difference is. Um, but I think it's also it's useful. So would love feedback on that one too. And then milestone 3 is the creation. Milestone 3 is like you want to create a DAO. that a smart contract that's a DAO, you want to create a smart contract that has OKRs, or you want to create a new NFT, whatever it may be, it will have the capacity uh, for the AI agent to do that, and then send it back to Blur, the IDE, show the diagram view. And really, the diagram view should be the default. Secondary should be the code view. You got to like click to get into the code view. This should be the default. And then should be a sequence diagram for smart contracts so that you can see everything and you can interact with the AI as well in the terminal. So this could be for simple creation. And then phase two would be like for creations that have to do with multiple smart contracts that interact with each other. So that's it in a snapshot. And that's milestone three, right? And then milestone four would be the partial autonomous work. And then five was where we went ahead, where the AI agent is just it's on its own. There's no developer intervention. The only thing that you can see is like what it's doing under the hood, right? So that's my update. Please give me feedback. I'll share these diagrams in a Telegram channel as well.